Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy, and we got something a little bit different for you today.
Yes.
We're going to kind of cover the protests that are going on across the United States with live feeds in the middle, and then we're going to cover the news as normal. Once in a while, we'll bring up an article. It's pretty quiet right now as it looks like the protests are ready for tomorrow,
Yeah.
but we'll talk about Iran and different news articles, but I just want to keep up the live feed. You'll see me maybe look away and looking at the TV I have in front of me to kind of monitor if we do want to go back to that.
Yes, we're doing an experiment, but also feel free to send chats, message, let us know what you're thinking, questions, etc., because it's a different format we're trying today.
Yeah, and it's just for these protests, really. And we're going to be doing some extra coverage, most likely tomorrow. I'm expecting these protests to get really huge. I just want to do some preparation tonight to see how we're going to run the stream tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if they don't, nothing happens, then
Yeah.
we might not. But we'll let you know as either way.
Okay, let's go to the three shot with the protest. Perfect. Okay, so these are primarily live feeds from across the nation. There's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 feeds in total. The boxes at the bottom have 2 each. That being said, some of them aren't exactly live. The gentleman that's hosting this is attempting to change the boxes as they go non-live. So he's trying to keep them updated as much as possible. I've been watching this feed for most of the day, and it's been pretty good. So,
And if we see anything like that we really can't show on YouTube, we'll just exit out quickly.
yeah, if it does get violent, we're going to go over to RUMBLE so we can show full coverage of this. Tomorrow, we may cut to RUMBLE quite a bit because I'm expecting it to get a little bit out of hand. That being said, why don't we give the name of the stream, because we're only going to be on here for probably an hour. I'm not expecting much to happen here. But that being said, what's the name of the stream so people can watch it on their own after?
So it's Starship Adventures, and I'll also link it in the description as well for anybody interested. And also I'll link some of the stuff I said in the Spanish live that might be of interest as well about the financing of the upcoming No King's Day protests.
Okay, let's go kind of right into it. And we're probably going to get throttled anyway for having the protest videos. Plus, we're going right into the Israeli subject. And this is a third rail I really don't usually touch on, especially on YouTube. I usually save it for RUMBLE. But today we're going right into it because they're headline news. Okay, so why don't you go into the first article I had? You don't need to bring it on screen. We'll just kind of talk about it today.
Well, I can't see it if I don't bring it on screen.
Oh, you can't?
No.
Okay, well, let's bring it on screen, then we'll go back to this after.
So breaking, Israel says the attacks last night took years to plan. They smuggled drones into Iran and set up an entire undercover base outside Tehran.
Okay, we'll watch this clip in a minute, but let's go back to the protest. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this before we start covering this because I'm not impressed with this war at all. The U.S. and Iran were in supposedly peace talks. Iran is really connected with Russia and China right now. They're trying to make a huge economic alliance. Those three really don't want a major war to break out. Russia and China have really been keeping Iran in check for that. Russia has been slow burning the war, you can just go back to the CNN. Slow burning the war in Ukraine because they don't want to escalate anything. The BRICS alliance is an economic alliance that's really in a big transition period. They don't want any major conflicts. So that being said, it's very interesting. Today, Trump came out with a statement saying this was a psyop. They were pretending to have peace talks with Iran, and they were planning to bomb them the entire time. Iran has not escalated this. I watched Netanyahu's speech yesterday. All the justifications he's going in to bomb Iran is, well, they've been arming for the past 30 years. This is what the mustache man did in Germany, and we should have stopped him earlier. We have to go in there. We have to hit first. But they can't point to anything in recent history why they have to go in there. And this is a major issue for me. It's a major issue for most populist Trump supporters. The majority of Trump's base does not agree with this. There's a huge rift within Trump's base right now to not support Israel, to not fund Israel. And when we say not support Israel, we're not saying go
Against
support Palestine or go support Iran. No, what we're saying is nationalize your military. Focus on your own borders. Stop funding these foreign wars. Stop funding these governments that are going to be in these wars. Stop funding Ukraine. Stop funding Israel. Stop funding all these other groups. Now, how are they going to justify this Iranian thing? Are they going to go back to, because there's a lot of people turning against this right now in the conservative base. Are we going to start hearing what we heard in the Iraq war? Oh, they have weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction. We heard that for 2 years. Oh, we're going to find them. We're going to find them. There never was weapons of mass destruction. And yeah, let's go into the clip now. I just kind of wanted to put my view out there. I'm going to show things that are kind of from both sides, but a lot of the American media is covering this from a pro-Israeli side. I'm neither pro-Iranian or pro-Israeli. I'm pro-America, and bring the troops back. Don't fund these foreign wars anymore. There is something else going on with this that could involve Mexico, and I'm going to cover it in a moment.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Iran's president responding, saying that its level of force and its actions will make Israel regret the actions that it took earlier today. Similar to the pager operation that Israel carried out last year in Lebanon, this one also took years of planning. Mossad released this footage earlier this morning of the Operation Rising Lion between the IDF and Mossad, which began at 3 a.m. local time, although preparation began long before. The mission included Mossad smuggling vehicles and drones into Iran, setting up a drone base in Iran, and activating the drones this morning to hit Iran's surface-to-air missiles. At the same time, the IDF deployed 200 aircraft. These were mainly fighter jets to hit roughly 100
And this was an unprovoked attack. Pause it. I just have to mention this. This is an unprovoked attack. Israel is giving speeches and they're having a tough time justifying it. All the justifications they're kind of giving do not make sense, and they're dragging the U.S. into this war. The U.S. is already deployed aircraft carriers and is shooting down any counter missiles that are coming from Iran. This thing is looking to escalate into a full-fledged war as we speak. We're going to go back to the protest in a moment as well.
Today, the Israeli military says it also destroyed dozens of radar installations. Multiple explosions were heard at Iran's Natanz nuclear power facility. This is Iran's main enrichment facility. Now, back and forth today between how much has actually been hit and the level of damage there. Iran claims that it's still standing, but Israel says it has been severely damaged.
Okay, that's good. Let's play it, Nate. Now, this was the speech, and this is Fox News. They're really trying to back Israel, as a lot of American media is. When we listen to his speech, really listen to his talking points on how he's trying to justify this strike. I mean, this could escalate into nuclear war very quickly. It's expected that if Iran hits back Israel, that they are going to hit back with nuclear weapons, and that would be huge. They have to have approval from the United States, because the United States is the one with the codes for the Israeli nuclear weapons.
Struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program. We targeted Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. We targeted Iran's leading nuclear scientists working on the Iranian bomb. We also struck at the heart of Iran's ballistic missile program.
Washington says it was not involved, and the top priority is protecting American forces here in the region.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about this as well. Obviously, this was coordinated with the U.S. The U.S. pulled out most of the troops and all of their families from the region in fear that Iran would strike back, but they pulled those people out before this attack happened. That means this was coordinated directly with the U.S. administration, and Trump did know about it because he was making those evacuations. Do you want to go into anything else here?
I was trying to.
And again, these are the protests from around the nation in in the United States. Nothing major is going on, but we're just kind of covering it today. We're going to be doing more live coverage tomorrow. We're talking about the news kind of over top of it.
Yes, and Rafa says, the net and guy in English. So now I'm the net. And Rafa also says Netanyahu desperately needs a distraction from his corruption charges.
Yeah, it's expected if these wars die down that Netanyahu is going to be jailed. He needs these wars to escalate. So and he's dragging the U.S. In on this thing. This is not good. Iran is making really strong economic alliances and moving all the chess pieces economically. They are moving away from violence for the most part. Yes, they're supplying drones to Russia and things like that, but it's in a military alliance. These were unprovoked attacks. So now when Iran does attack back, this is going to escalate. Tit for tat, tit for tat. The U.S. is already over there backing Israel, like I said, with their aircraft carriers shooting down missiles. I am not for either side. I wish the United States would pull out of this war and mind their own business. They should have been doing that for the previous wars as well.
But now they might have the perfect excuse to go somewhere else closer to home, because we see a lot of the, let's just say, MAGA pundits starting to, certain ones, starting to edge closer towards saying and talking about the Mexican insurrection, and we have to do something about Mexico. So a lot of them are suggesting that instead of focusing on Iran, they should come to Mexico.
And let's talk about their talking points real quick. And they do make sense if you're from the United States, and it is going to influence a lot of people. I live in Mexico. I do not want the U.S. military to invade Mexico in any way, shape, or form. I am against it. I would say Mexico is a sovereign country. But like I said the other night, the United States is lining up the dominoes, and they have been for a few years now. But in recent times, Mexico has kind of been assisting them by speaking up and saying that this is Mexican land through some of their politicians, their senators. In recent days, yes. The cartels have been labeled a terrorist organization, which is another domino. You're having people on the ground that are saying this is Mexican land within the United States. So it looks like an insurrection, at least to Americans. That being said, this is a huge domino with this Iran thing really escalating. The talk is MAGA is very anti-war when it comes to foreign wars overseas. They're saying, we're not for this. We do not support Trump with this. We need to be focusing on the United States, and Mexico is at our southern border. The cartels are responsible for more American deaths over the past 20 years than any other country. And it's hard to debate that point, actually. And it's going to be a good talking point for them to try to escalate that. I'm sure the U.S. government, if they do want to come into Mexico, is going to use that talking point. Mm-hmm. They have more justification right now to come into Mexico, even though I don't want them to, than they do to go over to this Iranian war.
At least they've given themselves enough dominoes lined up in the recent past, 6-7 months to do so. And now whoever's funding these idiots that are starting fires and violent protests and riots and etc. are just giving more fodder to what actual Mexicans really don't want. And I will keep saying, and I said it in my Spanish show just now, but I'll keep saying it, it's not real Mexicans that are over there. Most of them are either coming from or connected to a lot of NGOs that did this, the exact same thing during BLM and a bunch of other protests, a lot of them connected to all the Palestinian stuff as well. So by saying that, and descendants of Mexicans as well, but that are Americans themselves. So they're burning the American flag of their own country, essentially. And the fact that Mexican politicians have tried to use this and to show their support for migrants in the U.S., they're actually showing support for, I'm saying, like, not fully, but maybe an attempt at a color revolution.
Okay, I want to say something else here really quick before I forget the point. I don't think the U.S. necessarily wants to come in with a full-scale invasion. What they want to do is have all the dominoes lined up so they can put massive pressure on the Sheinbaum administration and say, if you do not cooperate, we do have justification and we do have prior precedents for going into Iraq, Afghanistan, and all these other countries that they've gone into for lesser reasons. So they want to go to the Sheinbaum administration and say, we have more justification right now. If we want to come into Mexico, you better help us. You better let U.S. troops to assist Mexican troops and deal with this situation. That's what they're trying to do.
And we're not saying that that's what we want to happen. We're saying that that's the conversation that is brewing on the background of all of this.
It's what's erupted surprisingly off of this Iranian-Israeli conflict that's happening because the U.S. is already backing Israel. MAGA is saying, we don't want them backing Israel. There was already a rift kind of before. I expected that part. I didn't expect the talking points of we should be militarizing in the U.S. and getting ready to go into Mexico. I didn't expect those talking points to come up so quick. I live in Mexico, so I'm personally recently against it, but I am watching this situation extremely closely. I'm watching all sides, the liberal bubble, the conservative bubble, the MAGA, the anti-MAGA, the traditional rhinos. There's a lot of moving parts, but the traditional MAGA base does have a lot of influence. So if he does pull out of Iran, it might not be the best thing for Mexico.
And again, keep seeing all of this talk about Mexican insurrection and Mexican nationalists when in fact it is mostly not. And we've seen the arrests, we've seen who's been arrested, at least in Texas, and some of the people in California, and they're not even Mexican people. It's
So
Americans.
far, and I will say this, so far they've been handling these protests very well. But because they amped up kind of slowly and they had a major escalation in Los Angeles and the BLM protests from a few years ago, I think the government kind of game planned a lot of these scenarios. It looks like they're really doing a really good job with these protests.
Except in Seattle, Portland.
Yeah, except in certain cities.
Yeah.
But that being said, tomorrow is the big day. So it's going to be very, very interesting what's happening tomorrow. We usually don't live stream on Saturday. We are going to be here throughout the day, probably closer to the nighttime, because that's when things are expected to really amp up.
And we'll see how it goes. The things might not amp up. They might actually end up deciding not to do anything as a counter strategy.
I think there's a lot of moving parts for this. We're not just looking at some crazy progressive protests that are going on here right now. What we're looking at is this Iranian war and things like this. There could be a black flag operation to have a terrorism attack within these protests and then blame it on Iran, because right now they don't have much of a justification of why Iran was attacked. If something like this happens, it would be a consolidating movement for a lot of Americans to say, yeah, we do need to go over there, because right now most of America does not want to go over there. The left is against it, and most of the right is against it as well.
And this is all speculation, in your opinion, etc. Rafa says, he said years ago that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction.
And he didn't.
And Luke Potter says, Israel strikes purely Iranian nuclear sites, and military Iran strikes back with a purely civilian-focused attack. They are not the same.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous that they've been funding Israel to the tune of $4 billion of military weaponry every single year for decades now. So, and then now on top of this, they actually use that weaponry in a non-provoked attack. And I mean, this thing is escalating out of control, in my opinion, already. We'll see what happens over the weekend. The weekend's going to be the big deciding factor. One thing, if Iran really wanted to checkmate them, they need to start using the media. Russia and China need to start using the media in return too. They got an Israeli hostage right now from a plane that they shot down, which was supposedly a female pilot from what I've heard. That being said, they said if they came out and said, we don't want to escalate this any further, here's your pilot back, this is an act of good faith and focus on the economics. If Israel then struck again, I think sentiment would be to stop the attacks. But like we've seen with Israel, with the Palestinian thing, they were completely justified after the initial attack that happened on them to kind of go in there. But they kept going, and they haven't stopped. The issue with that is Netanyahu knows he may be arrested if he ever stops these wars. That's why he needs to escalate them. He's not just fighting the Palestinians, he's also fighting the Houthis. They're also fighting Lebanon. They're fighting in Syria. And now they're trying to escalate this thing in Iran. How many different fronts are they planning to fight this thing on? He just wants to keep escalating this thing over and over so he doesn't have to face the consequences of his actions.
And Rafa says, a lot of right-wingers were really happy when Trump seemed to be moving away from Israel. Such a disappointment.
Yeah, everything Trump kind of worked for over the past 8 years, the movement that has really worked for has been a really anti-war movement. Don't get involved in these things. Even the Ukraine thing, like try to negotiate an end or kind of stay out of it. Maybe even pull out of NATO. There's a big movement to pull out of NATO as well. With the Israeli thing, it seemed like he was trying to negotiate peace. Now they're saying that was a false flag. They had always planned to attack Iran, which is how can Iran now trust America and go back into negotiations after outwardly stating that this was a false flag and they were always planning to hit them.
I don't know much about
Sorry,
that.
I'm kind of going into it pretty heavy just because I do know a lot about it, and
I
have been quite a big supporter of Donald Trump over the last few years, but a lot of that support has come on the back of his anti-war stances and how he's kind of managed to keep peace in his first term. He had the Middle East peace accords and things like that. There's one more aspect of this I want to kind of talk about. And Donald Trump recently went over to the Middle East, specifically Saudi Arabia, and he managed to garner $6 to $7 trillion in AI funding. Now, was this AI funding, or were they planning to strike Iran and kind of take them out? Because if Iran is taken out of the region, this is a big benefit to Saudi Arabia itself. It will be the dominant power within that region. So is Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the U.S. government all working together with a $7 trillion investment into the U.S.? Possibly. Now, I'm just speculating that. Maybe it is for AI investment, but it's really suspicious now that it came so close to this strike. Okay. We can go
I have no comment about it, but
we can go into the next news story here. Why don't we go to the clash in Egypt?
Sure. So,
And we'll go back to the protests in a moment.
From could be breaking. Clashes erupt in Egypt as local Egyptians confront Western leftist activists who arrived to march to Gaza.
Yeah, and there are supposedly hundreds or thousands of these crazy leftists that came into Egypt, which is a crazily unstable country, and thought they were going to march over to Gaza. Okay, let's play it. This went wrong, and the Egyptian people weren't supportive.
It might be loud, so.
بوليس جابوا بلطجيين ها هما جابوهم بالميطة خلصوهم اشوف واش يديروا هادو المتعاطفين.
And there's a lot of female liberals in here as well, and I'm sure they don't understand. This isn't the West. Okay, well, we can stop that. People kind of get the point. There was other videos I just didn't have a chance to grab. There's another one where they pulled over a bus. They forced the bus to pull over, and they started snatching people off the buses that were the same protesters that were planning to march to Gaza. The other people that remained on the bus were making videos on their phone and kind of sending them out, said, "We need help." They didn't even make it to Gaza, and they're in a friendly country, supposedly. So very
It's the
interesting.
same idiocy of Queers for Palestine and these ideas that people make up in their heads that every other place in the world is like the U.S. and it gives you the liberties
Sorry
to
to interrupt. Go back to the other the protests in the U.S.
I'll move away if the guy comes
Okay.
back.
Continue.
What was I saying?
How
That
this-
they have this idea, and it's especially a lot of these like Marxists and communists, they call themselves Marxists and communists, have these ideas that the rest of the world is exactly like the U.S., will give you the same rights, the same liberties, the same responsibilities, even that the U.S. gives its citizens, or Canada, I will say as well, or Europe. And then they go and actually are confronted with reality, and they have this cognitive dissonance because their mindset doesn't allow them to think that in a place where all of these people are not oppressed minorities that they're trying to defend, they're actually the majority that doesn't want them there and many times resents or even hates them and plans to do horrible things to them. And that's the discourse of the left and where it fails and how it fails. And it will continue to fail because what they support doesn't really gel in reality or with normal, real people across the world.
I'm just trying to find the next story. It may have gotten taken down from X. It was an Alex Jones clip. It was a 20-minute.
That's the one I couldn't find.
Yeah, it was the 20-minute clip. Oh, I think this is it right here. Yeah, this is it here. So it's this one here,
Okay.
I believe.
Well, to find it, I'm going to have to move away from here.
Okay, and it's a 20-minute clip, but we're only going to play the first like 30 seconds of it. And the U.S. through USAID has been funding these regime changes all around the world. We know what happened to Libya once they agreed to give up their nuclear program. They basically took Gaddafi out. Also, we've seen what happened in Ukraine with the coup back in 2014. A lot of this was funded through USAID. USAID has funded dozens of coups around the world and made these regime changes.
Sorry, the clip, that's an hour? That's the only one I can find.
Yeah, it says Alex Jones breaking exclusive.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
all of his things say the same thing.
Okay.
That's how they all write their tweets.
I think this is it. I'm not sure though.
Okay. Because it's an hour long.
Yeah, no, I said it's only 30 seconds. We're watching the first 30 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, read the beginning here.
So from Alex Jones, again, grain of salt. Total Proof Antifa is run by the CIA and is planning to launch a nationwide insurrection using the No Kings Front group this Saturday, June 14th. Bottom line, the deep state is attempting to run a CIA regime change operation in the U.S. to try and stop Trump from saving America.
And these are documents on how they've done it in other countries. I would expect them to try to use something here. The Billabong Group came out with their number one threat was Donald Trump. If you don't know what the Billabong Group is, definitely look into it. Just a keynote on Alex Jones. He was the only one to call 9/11 before it happened, and he specifically named the World Trade Center as the target. And oh God, who was the who was the main guy they accused again?
That's way before my time.
The terrorist,
Which one?
the one that did the World Trade Center
Bin Laden?
planning. Yeah, Bin Laden. I don't know how I forgot
Between
that.
your C3 and my tiredness.
he specifically named Bin Laden before. He tried to warn the U.S. government that this was going to happen. A lot of people think they ignored him because they were in on that particular operation. And if you haven't looked into Building 7 with 9/11, it's very interesting.
Again, grain of salt in our opinion, etc.
Grain of salt in your opinion.
I'm trying to protect ourselves.
Okay, let's go.
The CIA's riot guide on regime change, 1983, calls for CIA agitators to create a martyr for the cause, close quote, by, quote, leading the demonstrations into a confrontation with authorities. What do you think Charlottesville was? To provoke riots or shootings which may cause the death of protester and then use that death for bigger riots to then discredit the regime and overthrow a country.
Okay, we can stop
But when
it
you
there.
read this
And
document,
there is just a lot of conspiracy theories kind of going around right now. Not only that something like this is going to happen, if this does happen, it's more likely to happen in a red state because they're using actual bullets and more force in those states. It's very unlikely to happen in one of these sanctuary cities, actually, just because they're not using any real force in these sanctuary cities. It's all pepper bullets and things like that. The protesters are actually the ones using lethal force in the sanctuary cities. It's the opposite in the red states. So if something like that does happen, I would expect it to happen maybe in Florida. That being said, there's also the element of this Iranian thing breaking out. Are they going to try to false flag an Iranian attack on U.S. soil and use these protests as a cover? Things like this. So there are a lot of conspiracy theories going around, or just people kind of game planning what might happen tomorrow. But a lot of people are expecting something major to happen tomorrow. That's why we'll be covering it.
And it might not. What if it doesn't happen tomorrow and it happens Sunday? To misdirect.
Yeah, a lot of the funding and a lot of the transport and things like that are all scheduled for Saturday. This thing is, it's a very strange type of protest or insurrection that they got going on. It's completely corporate funded, NGO funded. Everything's kind of done out in the open. So yeah, I mean, maybe the protest, they could transport everybody there on Saturday, and maybe it couldn't happen until Sunday, but well, actually, yeah, you're right, Sunday, because things won't really kick off till late Saturday, which will turn into Sunday.
True.
Okay, let's go into the next story here. And that was...
Show it or just talk about it?
Yeah, let's take a look at these videos right now. And there's a huge...
LA does... I didn't look it up. Does LA still have a curfew?
Yeah, LA still has a curfew, and that really shut down LA when they were doing this. They had a major curfew in LA put down by Karen Bass, not Trump, which was surprising.
Yes.
Supposedly, the National Guard, there was a court order to give control back to Newsom, and it's supposed to go back to Newsom tomorrow. So we'll see if that actually happens or what's the deal with that. There's still not much going on right now. What time is it? It's 10 o'clock here. That means it's a little bit earlier on the West Coast. I see the sun still out in most of these clips. So,
Yeah, that's what I was trying to explain in Spanish.
okay, let's go into the next story, and we can bring it up here real quick. It's CBS.
have to find it. There we go. Oh, it started playing. Hold on. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, you can read it, and then we'll watch it, and then we'll go back to the protests.
So from at Wide Awake Media, CBS News report from 1982 featuring a 34-year-old Al Gore predicts 25% of Florida ending up underwater as a result of the coal, oil, and gas we've been burning for 100 years. Climate changes could produce widespread disruption of agriculture. Scientists believe the odorless, colorless carbon dioxide gas for these potentially dangerous changes across the planet.
And this was in 1982, they were giving out this propaganda. And if you remember in 1970s, they were trying to do the same propaganda, but they said there was an ice age coming. So it's very interesting. And now they're trying to go away from global warming and say extreme climate conditions. Okay, let's play it.
Concern about rising temperatures on planet Earth heated up a hearing here in Washington today. For years, scientists have theorized about the dangers of the so-called greenhouse effect, the warming of the Earth's atmosphere due to the burning of coal and oil. And in recent months, as David Culhane reports, research has uncovered facts to support that theory.
Many scientists claim that the temperature of the Earth's atmosphere...
Throttled there, but... yeah, this narrative is just falling apart in real time. And this was one of the linchpins because of the carbon taxes and things like this of how they wanted to control the new economy.
Fear has been rising over the past 100 years that the great sheets of pack ice in Antarctica are melting at a much more rapid rate than previously.
As we reported, they're actually regrowing since 2021 till 2024. The regrowing of the ice sheets is happening at a pretty tremendous rate right now. So it's interesting that it's actually reversing.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, that the sea level has been rising with increasing swiftness over the past 40 years. If these scientists are correct, about 25% of Florida would be flooded sometime in the next century, along with low-lying areas all over the world.
Oh, God.
Climate changes could produce widespread disruption of agriculture. The American farm belt might be too dry, and the wheat and corn crops would have to move to Canada.
Pause it again.
Scientists blame
Canada
the odorless...
had one of the coldest months on record in 50 years just last month. So let's keep going with this.
Colorless carbon dioxide gas for these potentially dangerous changes around the planet. It is the greenhouse effect. The gas allows sunlight to filter down and warm the Earth. But like the glass of a greenhouse, the carbon dioxide tends to trap heat so that it cannot rise into space. The scientists maintain that the coal, oil, and gas we've been burning for 100 years have produced more and more carbon dioxide and helped overheat the Earth.
We are not doing the kind of research that we should be doing to determine...
During my time, and this was before he was vice president, I believe.
Whether or not these scientists who are so alarmed are correct in their assessment.
This computer model simulates Arctic ice. Scientists are trying to predict the rate at which it will melt and how much it will make the oceans rise. And what they find out will affect the lives and fortunes of millions of people, the very survival of cities like this one.
Okay, let's go back to the protest coverage.
And we do have a comment.
Oh, let's read the comments.
Find fun.
Sorry, I'm watching. If you see me looking away from, I'm kind of watching the protests on the TV. In
So from Facts Are Good says, someone slept through science class. Also, Facts Are Good. Climate change is real. Undocumented migrants have the right to due process in the Constitution, and the J6ers weren't tourists. Hope that helps. Does that help you?
Well, I hope he's being sarcastic. Otherwise, he's an absolute fool.
Well, your facts might be different. As AMLO said here in Mexico,
well,
you have different data.
Well, it's fine if you, if you think January 6th was nuts. What's been going on in LA? What happened with the BLM protests that caused $16 billion worth of damage? Mm-hmm. What happened with January 6th was actually a protest that got a little bit out of hand. And there was a little bit of violence there. When they say it was a mostly peaceful protest, that was one example where it actually was.
Yeah.
And what's going on now is not the case.
Rafa said to add Facts Are Good. Of course, climate changes every day. Yeah, today we had a lot of rain in Mexico City. And as a Mexican, yes, undocumented migrants do deserve due process, but the ones that have already been processed and have criminal records or still warrants for their arrests, I think their due process has essentially been done.
Yeah.
And they need is to be deported from the country.
Well, and it's a little bit crazy that there's only one country right now that's at least in the major Western countries that's saying, well, no more illegal immigration. We're still going to allow the most legal immigration, which they have for decades now. But no more illegal immigration, and they're throwing a fit over this. He's not even saying you have to go back to your own country. What he's saying is, we'll provide you with $1,000 if you self-deport and go to an airport, and we'll also buy you a plane ticket anywhere in the world you want to go, of any country that will take you. Many European countries will take migrants. Canada will take migrants. Canada is a very similar country to the United States, just a lot more liberal and progressive. Yeah. So why these migrants wouldn't go there, self-deport, I don't know.
We lived in Canada for 13 years, and we know that they do accept essentially anybody who will walk through the doors. So
they actually pay them to be there.
That's true. They also pay them a bunch of money to be in Canada. Facts Are Good says J6 was violent sedition. 140 police officers were injured on January 6th. I didn't say they deserved due process.
But none died.
They have it already under the Constitution, unless you missed civics class 2. I had civics class in Mexico because I'm Mexican.
Well, nobody died, and they had said 4 officers had died. They kept preaching that propaganda day after day after day, and that was never the case. And you can look it up. Some officers died days after of a heart attack, which was not related to the protests. Mm-hmm. So what's going on here? These officers are being put in a hospital all across the nation. They're burning down businesses. They're burning down cars. They're burning down homes of the very people they are claiming to want to protect. Mm-hmm. So what's going on here is absolutely just ridiculous. I don't think this should be called an insurrection at this point yet, and I don't think January 6th was an insurrection either.
True.
I think it was
rhetoric from both sides on both of these events are actually making everything worse for both the people they're trying to protect or save or help or whatever they're saying they're trying to do.
I'm wondering what his opinion is. He definitely thinks January 6th was an insurrection. But what about this? They've already tried to burn down ICE facilities. They surrounded courthouses. They've tried to attack police stations and police here. They've tried to stop ICE arrests. The breakouts that happened of the arrestees that broke out of the prison, they ran into the crowd. A crowd assisted them in stopping ICE from actually rearresting. Mm-hmm. So that seems like it would qualify for an insurrection. I'm not calling this an insurrection. No. I'm calling it a riot.
Mm-hmm. Which it is. But the ones that are now trying to piggyback on the whole Mexican nationals are trying to do an insurrection are actually going to do way more harm, not just to the Mexicans that are in the States, but also to the ones that are here in Mexico, in the country, in the actual country.
Well, I'm logically consistent the way I'm viewing both of these things. Mm-hmm. Most liberals or progressives are not ideologically consistent. They refuse to call this an insurrection, but they want to call January 6th an insurrection. I'm saying both of them are riots. That's the thing.
Yeah, and both were violent as well.
Okay.
Should I read all the comments or just move past it? Okay. Said, cool, read the Constitution. MAGA tried to overthrow an election. Property damage isn't the same as sedition. I know sedition is a big word. Google it. And yet they still didn't try to overthrow the government.
Okay. Is there any more comments?
That was it.
Oh, that was it. Okay. Well.
Do you want me to Google sedition?
Well, I hope he likes his president.
Yeah, true. Oh, Rafa says, congratulations, you triggered a leftist. We used to do that all the time when we lived in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Vancouver specifically. So we are well aware and well trained around them.
Okay, why don't we go into the next story here? And I believe it was it California?
Yeah. Tiburon, yeah. It's funny that there's a city named Shark.
Wait 1 sec.
Okay. Nothing's happening.
Yeah, I'm just kind of scan it real quick. Okay, let's go to the next story, and then we'll come back to the protest coverage in a moment.
Okay. I have to reload everything because the computer stopped working.
Oh, this was pretty funny. I just this made me laugh.
It goes with the other.
Yeah.
This is Tiburon, California. Here, residents can be fined up to $500 for not separating their trash when disposing of it. As you can see, when the city comes to pick it up, it's all thrown in one
And
bin.
1 second, in Canada, this is a very similar situation.
Here too.
My cousin was one of these big climate activists, and she went to school for all this and started researching how they do recycling and all this. And 90% of the stuff is just thrown together and then thrown in the landfill, which is craziness. And yeah, that's how she stopped becoming one of these climate activists, when she actually did the research.
Yeah.
So.
Progressive bastion of Marin County, California, where we environmentalists go out of our way to separate our refuse for a more sustainable planet. Residents can be fined up to $500 for not properly separating their trash. As you can see, the separating can be futile, as all this trash is remixed in the truck and hauled to the landfill. This is at the end of Tiburon's Restaurant Row, where the restaurants diligently separate their waste into recyclables, compostables, and common trash. I witnessed bin after bin of meticulously sorted waste, several tons worth, dumped into the same truck, crushed, and hauled away. Recycling is not specifically mentioned in the book, but rent-seeking is. And so is virtue signaling.
Okay, that's good.
And if there wasn't a fine, it's just an ideological issue and what's actually happening. But because there is a fine for not separating, I think it's
a bunch of garbage. They're
disingenuous.
throwing everything in the landfill just like they were doing before. Like, what's the point of it? And when you look into plastic recycling, 85% of plastics can't even be recycled. They have you put it in this bin, and then if you're lucky enough to live in a city that actually does the recycling, which is very rare because it's not very cost effective to actually do it, it burns more energy than it actually saves. They have to resort these plastics. Yeah.
And a lot of it can be recycled if it's not properly initially recycled by whoever's throwing it in the bin. Anyways, facts are good, says Google Insurrection again. And I'm laughing at the hosts. They have never read the Constitution, but keep speaking as if they know what the law is. Have you read the Constitution of the United States?
Yeah.
I've studied.
I used to live in the United States for quite a while.
Yeah.
I lived in
But you're Canadian.
Los Angeles, Florida. I'm originally from Canada. I live in Mexico now. I've lived in Canada I lived there for 15, 20 years. I lived an equal amount of time in the United States. And then I've lived in Mexico for a few years now. So
And
I have a good idea of all three countries and how they interlink and the differences and the similarities and things like that.
And I'm from Mexico, raised in Mexico, lived 13 years in Canada.
I think that person would be very interested in some of the opinions here in Mexico. It's about a 50-50 split on how Mexicans actually see what's going on in the United States.
Yeah, because they don't, I will speak as a Mexican, don't like this sort of representation. And the fact that they're calling it Mexican insurrection is when it's not actually mostly Mexicans. It's mostly idiots from the left that are trying to prove a point that they can't prove.
Yeah.
So it's actually hurting us down here way more, and also the migrants that are over there way more.
Yeah. Okay, let's go into the next story if we have it.
Which
they were
is-
towing that. Did you see that car there?
Yeah.
They had a Palestinian flag and they were towing it away. That was great. Okay, let's go into... Oh, this was an AI video I seen. I just thought this was funny.
Which one?
And I thought maybe we needed a little humor. The Jake GTV Real News.
Are we going to Canada's Top Doctor or no first?
Let's go to the meme first, because I just thought there was so much serious news tonight that maybe we needed something to laugh at. And I think our friend over there that keeps leaving comments will absolutely love this one.
I think Facts Are Good has left because their facts were bad.
Well, here's some facts for him.
Breaking news, George Soros is
pause it.
funding.
Most of this video is AI, and I just want to repeat this. This is a meme. I put this in here for humor, but there's a lot of truth in jokes.
Yes.
The new Ice Fest.
Okay, that's exciting.
We go live to the propaganda.
Sir, what exactly are you protesting here today?
I don't even know why we're yelling, but I think chaos is good.
Looks like Anthony
What's wrong?
Cavazos.
I watched the news. It said people are being taken from their homes.
Do you know anyone personally affected?
No, but my friend's uncle's distant cousin's friend. We're here to get impressionable youth to come cause chaos.
Why are you out here today? They're taking people from their homes. Where'd you see that? The news. Go watch the news. We are the resistance. The news said so. Grab a rock.
Good thing there's pallets of bricks and a conveniently placed pile just dropped off for protesters.
Here's the thing about people being illegal. Illegal should be legal. We don't need laws. What's good, foo? You want to catch a fade? I'll mess you up right now.
How fun. Reminds me of the Floyd Fest.
Perfect distraction while the so-called Semites cause unrest in the Middle East.
Right. More propaganda.
Good one, John. Shut it down or I'll shut it down. In other news, we were promised this land thousands of years ago. Bergstein, take it away.
Thanks, Steinowitz. Remember, people, they are the bad guys. Trust me.
These people are an absolute cancer.
Truly going to be the end of the human species.
That's anti-Semitic. Brittany, you better watch your tone.
Oh, yeah, I almost forgot they fund the news.
Exactly. Back to you, Dennis.
You guys make a good point, but my producers tell me to distract people with chaos so they don't notice who's actually starting World War III.
Why are you out here today?
Because if you come here illegally, you deserve to be here. Like, illegal activities shouldn't even be illegal, dog.
Well, this is a perfect way for the government to unleash martial law. Get ready for FEMA camps, folks. Dennis, take it away. In other news, if you haven't followed Jake GTV yet, you might be a total...
What's creepy is the AI. Like, that's what actually creeps me out the most.
Oh,
that AI is now there. And I've seen a lot of these sorts of news, like, clips saying, oh, don't believe me, and then an alien spaceship coming out of the water. But it is kind of scary, especially for people that fully believe everything they see and are not able to fully distinguish what's real and what's fake. But yes. Rafa says, I thought they were taking people back to their homes in their own countries.
Yeah, and what did you say?
And Rafa says, I thought they were taking people back to their homes in their own countries.
No.
I don't really fully get which point he's talking about.
They are deporting back to their own country, but if they want to deport themselves beforehand.
Not people that have arrest, like warrants for their arrests or that have a criminal record, the ones that are just there illegally, which is also a crime, but whatever.
But they can self-deport to any country they want and receive $1,000 for it. So, and there are countries like Canada or European countries that will accept them and will even pay them, house them, and feed them to be there.
And regulate their migratory status as well, which is, I mean, also important.
Okay, let's go into Theresa Tam. And a lot of people aren't going to know who this is, but this was the main
architect?
Healthcare, what do you call it?
Top doctor. She was the head of the, it's been so long and I erased her from my mind. Chief Public Health Officer.
Yeah, she's the chief public health officer in Canada. She's the one that kind of coordinated everything. People in Canada absolutely hated her, and she became world renowned, not just within Canada but worldwide during the pandemic because she helped really implement the architecture of.
You said the P word. I forgot.
Yeah.
So Canada's top doctor, Theresa Tam, leaving position when term ends June 20th. She's been there for a long time.
And this is not a good sign because people like this, she succeeded in the eyes of the progressive left, and I'm expecting her to fail up. So I would expect her to get a global position or something like that.
So as Dr. Theresa Tam prepares to leave her position next week, Canada's top doctor says it's more important than ever for Canada to stand up for science and combat disinformation. She's held the role of Chief Public Health Officer for 8 years, but became a household name in the last 5 years as she led the country's public health response to the bad times in 2020.
Well, maybe she'll go work for the CCP now.
Her term ends June 20th, and she doesn't have a job lined up, supposedly. Tam said in a wide-ranging interview Friday that touched on her desire to be remembered for more than those dark times, her passion for health equity, and the musical side of her that the public hasn't seen. We're good without seeing it.
Okay, that's good for this. I just kind of wanted to bring this up because we do cover a lot of Canadian news and stuff like that.
Yes.
Let's go quickly into the next photo. Oh.
And Rafa says, you ruined my joke. Sorry. I think we were trying to read it serious, and it wasn't serious.
And I'm a little distracted trying to pay attention to the protests, report on the news, and
deal with crazy people.
Fight progressive liberals.
Walker says, I'm sorry. I'm late. Sorry, guys. It's okay. This is not class. We don't take attendance, but thank you for being here.
And just for Walker, we are covering the live streams of the protests going along in the United States. There's nothing major happening tonight, it looks like, so far. We'll be doing more coverage tomorrow because I'm expecting something to come up. But we are talking about the news, but we're constantly going back to the primarily live feeds across the nation. So.
And Rafa says, you missed the crazy leftist. Rewind eventually and see. Well, you can read the comments if you just scroll up. But yes, that was fun.
And quickly,
Again, being in Canada was talking to people like that every single day, hours on end, with getting nowhere.
oh yeah,
In my
and then having
experience,
them
at
have
least.
complete control over you,
Yes.
tell you have to stay in your house because you're not going to have a jibby jab, and they're going to take your job from you, which they actually did. And yeah, just the,
and no discourse, just like yelling and saying, you know nothing, you know nothing.
well, you can't have discourse in Canada because they have compelled speech laws and
That too.
hate speech laws in Canada.
Yes.
Moving
on.
Yeah, let's go really quick to the other article. Just show the picture.
Nope. Sorry, I had to reload everything because we lost power because we're in Mexico.
And just read the headline real quick.
So, U.S. Marines have arrived in Calgary for the G7 summit.
Okay, and go down a little bit, and let's just fast forward to the end. Yeah, there was good. Okay, that's good. We can go back to the protest, and we'll talk about this.
Sure.
So I just wanted to show the clip so everybody
no.
kind of knows what we're talking
Hold
about.
on, I messed up. There we go.
Yeah, the G7 is taking place in near Calgary, not actually Calgary, on June 15th to the 17th. So just in a few days. It's going to be interesting with this Iranian thing coming up, with these protests coming up. If anything does crack off tomorrow, will Trump even go to this thing? What are the world leaders? What's going to be the basic talking points here? Canada still doesn't have a deal with the United States, even though they're hosting the G7. So it's going to be very interesting. The fact that they're bringing such a military presence to the G7 as well, I think Trump's really making a statement there.
Maybe, or maybe they just coordinated. I don't know.
You usually would just take a normal plane. You don't take major military.
Are they there for training?
No, they security purposes.
Okay.
Is what they're there for.
But I mean, it is Canada, so.
Okay, because there's so many world leaders going to the G7, they're going to have increased security, so the Marines are going to be doing a lot of that security, I believe.
Why doesn't
Or the
Canada
Army.
help?
Well, you can't necessarily trust the Canadian government when they're so attached to the CCP. So, okay, let's look at these protests really quick. Still not much going on. They're doing a really good job at shutting it down. Mainly these curfews and moving in the military, and really the independent media has been doing a great job of showing that this isn't actually immigrants in these protests. It's far left progressives in these protests. So a lot of normal people are actually maybe staying away.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next article, and this is about Kristi Noem and the DHS.
Christina. An interesting creature.
Let's read the headline real quick.
Just in, President Trump and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem have mobilized the IRS to Los Angeles to track down who is funding the riots. Finally, the IRS is being used for good cause.
Well, and I agree with this. They finally mobilized the IRS for something that I would agree with. And let's remember, Joe Biden hired 60,000 IRS agents and armed them. And people are like, why are you arming IRS agents? These should be tax collectors.
Yeah.
But I guess they're actually going to use them since they're there.
With their leadership, and we also have the IRS here that's helping us track how these violent protesters are funded, what NGOs out there, what unions, what other individuals may be funding these violent perpetuators that are in these protests that take people who may be wanting to come and be peaceful, but instead turn these into very violent activities that go after law enforcement. That's just simply not acceptable. And I also with
Okay.
And if we have time, I do want to talk about what happened during, I believe it was this one with Padilla.
Yeah, we can go a little later today just because we're going to keep monitoring the protest. And I don't think anything is going to happen tonight because it's looking pretty quiet. But we will stay on a little bit longer.
Sure.
Kristi Noem would do anything for a photo op, I'll tell you that. Always ready. I'm not a big Noem supporter, but at least she does what she's told, I guess. This photo ops really turned me off on her. That being said, I was going to say something else.
IRS agents tracking financing.
Oh,
a lot of people have already uncovered a lot of the financing as it is, just like through, statements and stuff that as a 501c3 they have to declare anyways.
It's very important that they track the financing from the NGOs and the corporations, and they start doing these IRS investigations now following the money, because if there's future protests, which I'm expecting there will be over the next 3 years with this Trump administration. It's the same people typically funding this stuff. So if they can follow the paper trail now, they can really start cutting it off early and sending kind of a message if they go after these NGOs and corporations to other NGOs and corporations. It's not a good idea to fund violent protests.
Yes. And again, free speech is great, protest, right to assembly, but violence is kind of where you're.
And why don't you,
rising.
again, give a shout out to where people can watch this live stream from after we do go off air?
Yes, so this is Starship Adventures on YouTube.
And he's one of the better channels. I've been watching him for most of the day, and it's primarily live feeds. He gets pretty good feeds from across the nation. I'll probably be using the same channel tomorrow, but if you did turn up the volume or watch it on your own, he's actually monitoring police scanners from around the nation as well. So it's pretty interesting.
Oh, look, they're dancing Caballo de Rodeo.
And what's nice about this particular stream is rarely do they talk. They just have the police scanner and the live
Sometimes
feeds.
he'll come and say hello and
Yeah,
then move away.
if certain feeds do get more violent or there's more action on it, they'll cut to that one specifically.
And Walker says, Guy, the U.S. Army sergeant who protested in uniform must be a snapshot of how the U.S. armed forces have become quite politicized, which in my opinion creates distrust in military allies.
Yeah, it's not just...
Did you see that lady?
No. But it's not just the U.S. military. Under the Biden administration specifically, I had a lot of friends that were in the U.S. military, and they were trying to push them out by having these forced vaccinations and just have general policies that a lot of soldiers didn't agree with. So it forced out a lot of more traditional or conservatives or longtime soldiers in the military, and they really tried to replace them with progressive liberals. That being said, they had the same strategy in a lot of Democratic cities. So this is what they did in LA and Seattle and Detroit and Philadelphia. They want to replace the enforcement arm, which is traditionally conservative, with progressives because they don't want these police forces to actually follow federal law when it comes down and things like this.
In your opinion?
Yeah, in my opinion.
Do you want me to find that video or no?
Yeah, if you can, really quick.
Okay, I'm gonna have to move away from this for a second.
No. Wait,
what's happening? They're dancing around.
Let's show the last clip before maybe you try to find it. Oh, go find it, and then we'll show the last clip.
Okay.
So the last clip we have, after she tries to find the clip Walker was talking about, was Antifa gathered and attacked the Portland ICE government building. They're literally trying to burn it down for the last couple nights. They're doing it fairly unsuccessfully, but the police are having to come out of the building and clear the protesters away from the building because they're piling up garbage against the building and then trying to light it on fire and fan the flames. This is an attack on a federal building and federal officers. Like, we're seeing this all across the nation, really, but it would qualify as an insurrection. I'm glad Donald Trump isn't calling this an insurrection yet. If it does get out of control tomorrow, he very well might. Yeah.
Still looking.
Okay.
Oh, there, I found it.
You found it?
Yes.
Okay. We're gonna play this clip.
Do you want me to read it all? Because it actually gives background to
put it on the screen so
articles
everybody can see.
As Facts wanted us to talk about. What was the name? Facts are good. Yeah. Do you want me to read all of it?
Yeah, read it all. And we're going to go back to the protest in just a moment.
Pretty long. A U.S. Army sergeant from Errol Weber. A U.S. Army sergeant just committed one of the most egregious violations of military conduct caught on video in recent years and did so in full uniform at an anti-ICE protest in Dallas. Here's what she said in uniform on camera.
Oh, I did see this.
Yeah. So we'll see what she says. But then he says, let's be clear, this is a direct violation of multiple sections of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ, and the Department of Defense policy. Here's a breakdown of what she violated. Article 92 UCMJ, failure to obey an order or regulation. She attended a political protest in uniform, which violates DOD Directive 1344.10 and Army Regulation 670-1.
Okay, let's just go to the clip.
That's why I asked if you wanted me to read all of it or not. You can say no.
We are not pawns for Donald Trump's agenda. Why now? It's because the military was called upon innocent protesters. we, in our oath to serve, we serve the people of the United States. The Constitution, these constitutional rights are being stripped and just denied, and the military will not be pawns to that. So I'm calling upon the conscience of military members who served previously and now. We have a conscience, we have mind, and we have a duty and moral obligation to say no and resist
And
evil.
this is what happened to the U.S. military. They flooded people like this in there because they wanted to replace your traditional soldiers that were very much traditionalists and constitutionalists.
And she had been dismissed previously, like a few years ago, I believe.
Yeah, and I kind of thought that she probably wasn't a currently active soldier because something just struck me from her that maybe she wasn't. And I would expect more kind of staged videos like this.
And also, isn't Trump the military, like the...
He's the head of the military. He's the commander-in-chief.
Commander-in-chief.
So his order is the law of the land.
Yes. Walker says, I mean, the armed forces in these countries are traditionally Republican. The fact that they side with a movement like woke shows that they don't respect people's democratic choices.
But it was because the president was Joe Biden, and they have a series of progressive liberal presidents. A lot of the very high-ranking generals, these are political appointments, meaning that they don't actually earn those positions. They're appointed by the president themselves, and then they implement a political agenda within the military. So if you see a 4-star general saying some crazy progressive liberal things, it's because they were a political appointment. Also, they changed all the transgender policies. They were giving surgeries for free and giving you like 9 months off of duty if you join the military. It was crazy. Okay.
And she was probably hired during that time.
Do we have any more comments?
No.
Okay, we're just going to kind of monitor this. Maybe I'll talk some of the pop culture news from the morning.
Because I wanted to talk about Padilla.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I got to use the bathroom as well. So.
No.
What?
Don't abandon me. What if the crazy person comes back? Oh, they might get mad at me if I say crazy, so I can't say that. Again, I'm well versed on how these people work. Rafa says, isn't it suspicious that Walker arrived just when facts are good left? I'm not going to go with conspiracy theories here, Rafa. Hopefully not. But people are free to express themselves. I always find it fun to actually debate and discuss these things with people that kind of disagree, or, I mean, at least when they do it in good faith. So I do find it entertaining. I did want to talk about, I'm going to go just to me for 1 second, just so I can find what I'm actually looking for without having everything pop up all at once. But I'm sure you've seen some of you have seen the clips at least of what happened with Senator Alex Padilla. I believe the name is Alex Padilla, who pretends to be some sort of Latino. Once again, one of those fake Latinos that I always talk about as a Mexican and a Latino person myself. Let me find where it is. So this is basically, and this is from Viva Frei. You don't know who Viva Frei is. He's a Canadian lawyer who now lives in Florida, and he talks a lot about the Constitution with constitutional lawyer Robert Barnes. So if you're interested in the Constitution, you can go watch them.
Oh yeah, I should have brought up Robert Barnes.
I was going to bring him up.
because that's my favorite constitutional attorney, and he's a YouTuber as well.
So here he is replying to someone that said that I am Senator Padilla is the first thing he says. There's nothing the Trump administration won't lie about. And I just pulled this to show the clip of what happened with the senator. Kristi Noem was giving a press conference, the one we just saw a bit of. And
Secretary, I want to know why you insist on exaggerating
every single person that has been able to do this.
Hands up, hands up.
Also, I want to talk
I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary.
So that happened, and then he got wrestled to the ground and detained because of them. Well, I didn't know if I could show it, so I didn't actually pull
you
it.
could. I watched it earlier. It's not too bad.
Okay, let me find it then.
Oh, okay. Go back. Oh, you can't go back to the protest?
No, because I have to look.
Go to it really quick just so we can...
Nothing's happening.
I want to see, though.
Okay.
And the people want to see.
Nothing's happening.
Okay, leave it here for a second. Okay. You
Can I go?
back.
Thank you.
We'll go back to the protests in just a moment. But yeah, they did wrestle. I was watching some commentary about this incident with the senator, and It was very interesting because you had some very much progressive people on the panel that were saying they manhandle them, they shouldn't be taking them down like that. But if this was any other citizen, I would hope they would handle them the exact same way. And I hope they wouldn't give a senator special privileges just because he's a senator. So the fact that they treated him like any other citizen is good on the security or the police that were in the room at that point.
Yeah, so I found one from Kamala Harris, which very conveniently shows the clip starts after he's trying to go up, and the clip we just saw from Viva Frei.
Oh, and if you didn't see our episode yesterday, you should see Kamala Harris's new logo for her campaign. It's literally a picture of a circle jerk.
We can't say that on YouTube.
We can't. Okay.
A circle of jerks. So she says, United States Senator Alex Padilla was representing the millions of Californians who are demanding answers to this administration's actions in Southern California. This is shameful and stunning abuse of power. And this is the narrative that a lot of the Democrats are going with.
I have questions for the secretary because the fact
That's not how you ask them,
I have
darling.
a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your.
And he's resisting.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing their duty.
Well, she's saying many of her agents have been doxxed. And then they just continued moving him around. I think they
then
put him on the floor for a while.
As soon as he's out of the room and a little bit down the hallway, he starts cooperating because he realizes now he's off camera.
Yes. But...
You didn't have the final one where they took him down to the ground?
That's what I've been able to find in the past right now.
Oh, okay.
But I did have an answer from someone, if I can find it. Oh, it's because I put them all mixed. Sorry, this is my problem.
Okay, let's just go back to the protest.
Okay, fine. And I'll reply to some of the comments. David Bell says, what part of Mexico do you live in?
Mexico City. But
I'm from Mexico City.
Eventually, we want to move out of Mexico City to more of a homestead. But right
Somewhere
now,
out in the
Mexico
country.
City because our work kind of requires
And
it.
I was raised in Mexico City. I'm from Mexico City. Manos V says, new channel. Cool. Thank you. Rafa says to Walker, I knew it, by the way, did you? And blah, 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 where your name was highlighted. So apparently, according to Rafa, Walker appeared just as Facts Are Good disappeared. So now he has a conspiracy theory that Walker is Facts Are Good, which I don't believe. But Walker says, Guy, I feel like if there are people like the sergeant in the U.S. military, it's the result of the release of files which demoralizes the troops. I think there should be an analysis of that.
Yeah, I think they're trying to clean it out right now, and they're changing a lot of the policies. They're doing a fairly good job. The problem you're going to have now is weeding out these police forces from around the country. Very often, the local police are the ones that are kind of expected to enforce the law. But if you can pit them against their own morality on a certain issue, where if they don't agree with their lawful orders, sometimes they won't follow it. Especially if the state government's giving them kind of cover, which Gavin Newsom and other people are within the state.
And Rafa asks, I heard that Musk apologized.
Oh, yeah.
Is that true? And have you talked about it? Yeah, we talked about it yesterday.
Well, I had a clip. I didn't grab it, though, but maybe look for it right now.
But I have to move away from this.
Oh, no.
And you get all mad.
I can bookmark it. Why don't you talk to the people? But
Talk to the people. Okay. I will talk to the people, and then we'll return to Rafa's question. David Bell says, DF is too big for me. You called it DF. Also, when I left for Canada for 13 years, it was still called Distrito Federal. And then while I was there, it changed to Ciudad de Mexico. And I'm still having trouble with calling it CDMX or Ciudad de Mexico. I don't know why they changed the name. I think it was dumb, but whatever.
No, I can't find it. But
David says
Trump and Musk are friends again, and it's good to see.
And again, maybe points to the fact that it was mostly staged.
Yeah, and that was my theory that it was staged.
Yeah. David Bell also says, I love Merida, but not the heat. I could never live anywhere where it's hotter than in Mexico City because I'm boiled to death. I got too used to Canada.
I used to love the heat. I used to live in
hate
Miami and California and absolutely love the heat. The thing was, we lived almost a decade in Canada recently.
13 years, yeah.
And I was born in Canada, but lived in the States quite a while as well. But recently I lived almost a decade straight in Canada, I got really used to the rain and the cold weather. And as much as I said I hated it, now that I live in Mexico City, I actually like the days that it rains a lot, especially because I work inside all day editing videos with production and stuff like that. So when it's sunny, it's like, maybe I want to go outside, but when it's raining, it's like, oh, it's nice to be inside.
But here, like Mexico City, if you're from Vancouver, if you've ever been to Vancouver, Vancouver kind of, like it rains, but it doesn't really rain. It's just constant water falling from the sky, but it's not these giant droplets like here in Mexico City where there's essentially monsoons every so often when it's rainy season and thunder. And today our power went out. I'm happy it's like withstood up to now, but that's why I was late for the Spanish one. And David Bell also says, I'm ready to leave Kentucky. I kind of would like to be in one of those like
Tennessee is supposed to be it's good to hear that we have some people from an American audience, actually.
Yes, thank you.
We have two channels, a Spanish channel and an English channel. And because we broadcast out of Mexico City, it's really hard to get YouTube to push us into an English audience. It typically pushes us within Mexico. And we have low viewer ratings because only a certain portion of Mexico actually speaks English.
Yeah, or is even interested in English content. And thank you so much to Walker, Rafa, Jessica Ramirez, everybody who has been following us.
But he said he's ready to leave Kentucky. Tennessee is supposed to be is quickly emerging as a good state to live in. I know a lot of constitutional lawyers, a lot of YouTubers as well, moving to Tennessee because of the protectionist.
But he was talking about moving to Mexico.
Oh yeah, that as well.
But then
Mexico.
But he was saying Mexico City is too big, but Merida is too hot.
But with the thing that
thinking of Hidalgo is mostly like I mean it's not super safe, but it's mostly like forest. The good thing about Mexico in general, the country, is that you do get a lot of various different climates within the same country. So like up north, it's the desert, it's heat, it's horrible. I don't like it. Dry heat and not non-dry heat. What would you call that? Humidity. There's a lot of humidity. Also down by the south, it's more tropical. It's essentially humid 24/7, and I also couldn't live there. But then in the kind of this middle section, especially up in the mountains, you get almost kind of like a rainforest sort of climate, similar to Vancouver, but not the same, but more mountainous
weather. It's strange that they have so many water issues in Mexico City, yet it rains all the time.
It's because it's mismanaged. It's not that we have water issues, it's that we have water management problems.
And I'm watching these live feeds down here, and it is actually good. The top corner feed, not right now, but just a moment ago, they were showing the businesses. They're completely boarded up, and they're boarded up where the business owner did it because they're done really well, which is good because there was so much forewarning that Saturday was going to be the big day. These business owners have had a chance to kind of board up their businesses appropriately to kind of keep protesters out, which is good.
And Rafa says the bad thing about Merida is a lot of Chilangos are moving there. Just joking that Chilangos are people that are native to Mexico City. So I was raised in Mexico City, lived here most of my life, so I would qualify. And there's always a rivalry in Mexico between every single other state and Mexico City because every single other state thinks Mexicans from Mexico City are annoying and pretentious. And then people here in Mexico City think everybody outside of our city are basically living in a more rural lifestyle. I'll just put it that way.
Just from an outsider kind of looking in, and I research a lot of Mexican politics and just Mexico in general now that I live here, Mexico, the middle region, especially Mexico City, gets preferential treatment to the rest of Mexico, at least from the federal government. At least that's what it looks like to me. So
yeah, it always has. It's not great. And we do have a lot of states that actually do and have a lot more things that never get talked about. And David Bell says, it's a great state. I'm guessing Kentucky or Tennessee, one of those two. I'm guessing Kentucky. Born and raised here, but I'm a bilingual gringo. Nice to have you. Bueno tenerte. And he says he's retiring. So.
Oh, somebody else that moved to Tennessee. There's, if you like to watch like UFOs, aliens, Bigfoot kind of content, I love to watch it.
I hate it.
There's a show called The Confessionals. The Confessionals, really good show. It's kind of like podcast style, but he interviews guests live in studio. He's actually from Tennessee as well, and that's a great show. His wife's struggling with cancer right now, so our prayers do go out to him as well.
Yes, but not the UFOs. You want me to go to...
There's a lot of UFO things coming out right now. I like to watch it. It relaxes me because it's something other than politics, and I watch a lot of politics.
What relaxes me is watching cooking shows.
You keep wanting to make some cooking show, and there's no way.
Yes, I kind of want to force him to do mole from the metate, like from zero, like grilling the chilies and using the actual cocoa and chocolate and everything and making the paste and then actually cooking it. It would take forever.
Well, and if there's anybody new, if there's anybody new watching the show, please like and subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000 viewers so we can monetize this English channel. Our other channel was originally our English channel, but when we moved to Mexico, the only way we could get subscribers was to kind of transition that into Spanish.
Well, and I started doing videos in Spanish and noticed that the audience here and the Spanish-speaking audience responded very positively to that and to what I was talking about. So I said, might as well just keep this one in Spanish and make a new one in English.
Yeah, we had to kind of separate the channels.
Yes.
But so.
Thank you.
And I do have a morning show about pop culture every morning or every afternoon at 12 Central. You were recently on WDW Pro, which was big.
Yes, so thank you so much to WDW Pro as well. I keep saying it. But yes, I was there to talk about Pedro Pascal and the real reason why he changed his last name, which I found very interesting, especially now that... And we had a theory about Pedro Pascal and Google search results. So you said something about they used him for an ad with The Mandalorian and Grogu, Baby Yoda.
Yeah,
you said that in your morning show.
Yeah, they did a Father's Day. Disney kind of put Pedro Pascal up for Father's Day
because they call him Daddy Pascal because they're trying to make him like this hot new version of non-toxic masculinity, but they're trying to really stick that like daddy label on him. And I have another theory now that it's...
1 second. Yes. It looks like the bottom left corner is Arizona, and there's quite a few protesters out there. This is the first time I've seen a large group of protesters tonight. Yeah.
Left. This one.
That one. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but there is a large group gathering there, but we'll see what happens with that. That's the only thing I've kind of seen tonight, really. Yeah. They've been doing a really good job at kind of tempering it down.
Well, I think a lot of them might be waiting for tomorrow.
But I think a lot of the moderates don't want to support this protest or come out.
Because maybe they finally realize what's actually happening.
Continue on.
And that it's not real
theory,
Mexicans that are there protesting. It's Americans that are dumb, that are actually making things worse for Mexicans. What I was saying is Pedro Pascal, they keep trying to put this label of daddy on him, and he's put it on himself as well. And now I have a theory that it's because they want... Because of what his father did, which there's a video on this channel, you can go watch it. Essentially, his father did a bunch of crimes in the States and was never fully prosecuted for it. Now
they're doing something very interesting. I don't know what is going on the top right corner or top right corner.
They're pouring water on a wall.
No.
Oh, they're searching for something. They're drilling?
I thought it was maybe drilling.
No, they might be doing with graffiti. I don't know. It's too far away.
Continue with your Pascal thing.
So his father, if he changed his last name from Balmaceda to Pascal, because if you were to Google his last name, his father, Jose Pedro Balmaceda, would show up before. And a lot of articles were written about him and what he did in UC Irvine and a fertility clinic, a lot of egg swapping and non-disclosed egg transfers into women who thought they were getting their own eggs back, but it was somebody else's fertilized eggs. So my theory is he changed his last name to Pascal, at least partly because of that. He says it's to honor his mother. And now with the whole daddy thing, I think they might be trying to do a whole like Google search rankings sort of shenanigans where if you Google Pedro Pascal dad or Pedro Pascal daddy or Pedro Pascal father, he will come up as Pedro Pascal daddy, Latino daddy.
He's basically trying to hide his past.
Yes, well, I'm trying to extend the time that we're here right now.
Well, in the middle section on the left-hand side there, the fatter... the bigger Mexican dude waving the flag.
Again,
I like to see that. Like if you do want to come out and protest and wave your flag on the side of the road, you have every right to do that. And that group right there has looked pretty peaceful all night. They've had a camera on them, and that's what should be happening when MAGA goes out and protests. Other than January 6th,
that's kind of other ones, but
that's kind of what a protest should look like.
Yes, yelling is fine. Getting upset is fine. Waving stuff is fine.
He's got a cane as well.
Yeah. And again, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, not to commit violence.
Yeah.
Ethan Cook.
And if all the protests were like that across the nation and
be no
all the
issue.
camera feeds, it would be a lot different situation because a lot of Americans would actually start supporting that movement. And you can maybe apply a political pressure after that. And Donald Trump was already considering giving citizenship for people that had been there 20 years or more that were farmers and hotel workers. And if there was really this consolidation of people like this peacefully protesting, asking for citizenship if they've been there for an extended period of time, they might have had a better chance than all these violent riots that have been happening the past 4 or 5 days.
And again, that's why I keep saying in Spanish, like, yes, protesting against what you see as something that is a violation of people's rights or of migrants being there illegally, maybe you want to support, etc., that would be fine. But the minute you kind of accept the help of radicalists, of Antifa, of radical protesters that mostly sometimes get paid, NGOs, etc., then you're diluting your message and actually making it worse for the actual migrants, the actual illegal migrants, and the actual Mexicans that are across the border over here. So that's my take on it. Like, they should have never allowed for those people to come in their name and protest in their name because it doesn't help anybody.
And the Arizona camera went pretty dark. Okay. So it'd be interesting when it lightens back up because that's where the big group of protesters were.
Yeah, they were just walking around though. Ethan Cook says Chicago will be an absolute disaster tomorrow.
Oh.
I mean, we did see some previously.
I wonder if Rafa's still going to Philadelphia.
Well,
if you're still in the chat, let us know because I'm expecting a big turnout in Philadelphia as well. That's I believe it's a sanctuary city as well.
And Walker says, it reminds me of a podcast that a Mexican YouTuber named Pepe Problemas. The channel was UFO Radio for those who know how to look at the sky. Yes, we do have, UFO stuff that people say happened here as well, especially around Tepoztlan and that whole, magical mountain that everybody goes to get vibes.
I do like Tepoztlan.
It's annoying because there's too many hippies, but sure. Too many people that don't shower. But it's nice. It's very nice. If you go as a tourist, it is very nice. There's some very nice boutique hotels in Tepoztlan as well. I'm running out of things to say here.
I'm sorry. I'm distracted. I'm watching
Nothing's happening.
All the feeds. Yeah, I know, but this is what I do every night anyway. So if I'm doing it on stream, and we do have quite a few watchers. We have 11 watchers. So
viewers.
Viewers. I'm sure they're here just to watch the live feed because this is one of the better live feeds that I was able to find because usually I'm typing in riots live and I'm clicking between 3 or 4 and this one, the fact that it's all consolidated really makes it a lot easier.
So Walker says, yes, but will these real movements be able to free themselves from the influence and exploitation of their causes by NGOs? I think they're too intertwined. Without the NGOs, I do believe a lot of them would not have enough support or enough people interested in being in them to actually continue and moving forward and keep doing these sorts of things. I mean, people will continue to have some crazy ideologies and support neo-Marxism, neo-communism, stupidity in general, but I think if the support from and financing from the NGOs completely goes away, then the movement essentially just becomes a few people yelling on a street crazy things.
I was watching Tim Pool today, and he made a very good point. He was showing some videos about the liberal global order, which became the New World Order, which became kind of this globalist agenda they have, and he goes, they were doing fairly well until they tried to turn everybody gay. That was the point. People kind of rejected the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think they were able to propagate that for so long, but if they would have had a little bit more moderate of a stance on that, I think it would have gone a lot more under the radar. Mm-hmm. And then COVID, that's when a lot of the jibby jab era, that's when everybody kind of woke up.
Yeah. And
we'll stay on till about 11, and then we're going to be out. But if people do
We never went to RUMBLE. I mean, we are on RUMBLE if you're watching us there, but we never really needed to just go there.
Yeah, tomorrow when we do our live coverage, we'll probably start on YouTube a little bit earlier, and as it gets later, we might transition over to RUMBLE because we don't want to get hit if there's any
and be able to say more things out in the open.
But like I said, we're going to stay on till 11 tonight. So if you do want to watch the stream after we go off, this guy continues to cover it into the early morning hours. And it's a good channel to check out tomorrow. What's the name of the channel again?
Starship Adventures.
Starship Adventures.
I'll link it down on the description once we finish streaming.
Also, he is monitoring police radio and stuff like that. That's what the audio is, so he doesn't constantly talk over it, which is nice.
Yeah.
Okay, you can continue.
And Rafa just says he's not sure if he'll be able to due to the situation, and then look. So maybe you'll be safe.
Yeah, it might be a good thing to not go there, especially this week.
And again, wishing the best, and I'll continue conversation as we have been. I have to reply. But yes, trying to respect people's privacy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so you're running out of things to say. You need me to talk now.
Well, I kind of wanted to go into Senator Alex Padilla, but a lot of the stuff does have to be kind of shown. At least, I mean, we've seen kind of him starting to yell, then the Democrats saying that he was accosted and treated badly, and then he came out to cry in Spanish, sort of cry, with his not that good Spanish. Again, I keep talking about fake Latinos and people that hang on to Latino identities, even though they might not be, or they're American, and they just hate saying they're American because their ideology has made it so that it would immediately make them into an oppressor, even though...
You can take that off there.
No, sorry. Even though they've gotten other opportunities from living in the States and from their parents or grandparents making the huge effort that it was to actually go to the U.S. to find a better life. So I find that kind of rhetoric of I'm a victim, I'm a minority coming from celebrities or senators or people in positions of power just for being Latino or just because they speak Spanish. I speak a lot against that as someone from Mexico.
Well,
even though I may not look it.
It's really nice that things have kind of cooled down last night and tonight because these, especially when it was primarily in LA, these riots were pretty violent, and it was. I thought they were going to keep escalating. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I am expecting something big tomorrow, but if by some chance they've properly managed the military and police and they're able to keep this to a minimal amount of violence, this is a really good thing, not just because the minimal amount of violence, but because we've talked a lot about them bringing in a digital ID or a police state and stripping freedoms based on massive protest and unrest like this.
Patriot Act 2.0.
So if there isn't as much unrest as we're kind of expecting, because it's kind of been exposed, these are corporate protests, and a Democratic wing, a progressive Democratic wing is really organizing this, and if moderates don't come out, it's going to be really a lot harder to force a digital ID on people and things like this, and a digital currency.
Again, speculation in your opinion. But what I was going to say is...
not speculation, but continue.
I know, but to be safe. What I was going to say, and now I forgot. Oh, what if maybe they're trying, these people that are organizing all of this, they're trying to make it go super calm and nothing is happening, so they can actually say and use the talking point of mostly peaceful protests or just peaceful protests and say that, for example, Trump was not justified to send in forces. That might be another strategy.
That would have worked in the beginning, but there was too much violence in Los Angeles alone, and too many people seen that. And even on YouTube, when we were broadcasting about the LA riots, huge numbers those first couple of days. When I was sitting in bed watching the 4 hours of streaming, every single streamer had massive numbers. The entire country already has it projected in their head that these were violent protests. So even if they go peaceful now, it's almost too late because the imagery is already there. At least that's my opinion on it. So,
okay.
But that's what I was kind of thinking earlier as well, because I've been kind of game planning what kind of things could happen tomorrow, and that was one option. That is really the best option at this point. But it is too late to kind of rewrite the narrative at this point.
But maybe because there's so many people that are thinking oh, Saturday is going to be this huge thing, etc., and then it ends up not being big at all. I think that might give them a little bit more, points.
But I also think all day a lot of people are going to be covering this thing. We've never streamed on Saturday, and even we're going to stream on Saturday. That's usually our day off. But the fact that we're doing it and so many personalities that usually wouldn't cover stuff like that they're going to be showing all the stuff that did happen on those first few days in Los Angeles. And they're going to be talking about what's kind of been going on with the financing and other things. So that narrative is going to be repeated all day Saturday because they have to talk about something while they're covering this, just like me and you right now.
Yeah.
Luckily, I had news articles that was prepared for tonight's show, but then I just figured it would be good to kind of prepare for tomorrow and try this format. And tomorrow, before we go on, I'll probably gather news stories just so we can do something similar to this because it did give us something to talk about. And I'm watching other live streamers that just don't know what to say, and they're just kind of acting like goofballs on stream to kind of kill time.
Make time go faster. We're still on YouTube.
Okay. Well, what did I say that was wrong there?
End time. You said KILL instead of end.
Oh.
You said it a bunch of times today, but I still, again, if we ever do try to monetize this channel, they will check previous uploads.
Yeah, but it should be
that's why I'm so hawkish on this.
And I'm wondering who this guy is.
And I used to work at a high school, so I'm used to.
He keeps popping up here.
I don't know. Someone streaming. He's grabbed the stream from. He's at a 7-Eleven now, I think. Or some like convenience store.
Well, and that clip the other day that we played of that 7-Eleven was nuts.
Yes.
Where the people inside of the 7-Eleven, there was like 6 workers all trying to hold the door
and
shut.
clearly immigrants as well.
And then the other guys were just ripping it open. It sounded like they had a taser because it was like...
And then someone stepped in and said, hey, stop it. This is not helping our cause.
Yeah, surprisingly, a young Mexican protester stepped in, which was...
We don't know he was Mexican, but yeah.
Well, he looked, yeah.
He could be Latin American.
If he's from LA, he's probably Mexican.
Okay.
I used to live in LA.
Okay.
He stopped all the protesters and said, this is not what we want to be doing. It was actually good on him.
And hopefully that happens more and more tomorrow. Because again, it doesn't help neither Mexicans over here, nor Mexicans over there, or Latin American people, or just migrants in general. It doesn't help to be painted with this brush. Especially when your government is trying to say, oh yes, we applaud the protests over there. Like Claudia Sheinbaum did.
But there has been more than enough time, and there's more than enough funding for fireworks to happen tomorrow. Like, I'm interested, even if nothing does happen, that's a huge story as well. Because, yeah.
That's kind of what I'm expecting, but I might be wrong. I'm willing to be wrong.
And it's going to be very interesting how the mainstream media covers this, because they have the Iran thing, and as I've been watching the mainstream media channels, that's all they're pushing out right now. So they might want to try to push that narrative out, knowing that people are going to be tuning in for the protest. They want to push that new narrative out there.
Yeah. Oh, and with Senator Padilla, I can never finish my stories because you start going off. And the one thing I do have to talk about, you interrupt me.
We got 10 more minutes, and then we're going to be out for the night, but we will be back tomorrow at some point.
Yes, I'll also try to figure out more talking points. There's a lot of stuff I was trying to say in today's show in Spanish about the funding and about the research that has gone into who's funding these protests and why, and the similarities, let's just say it that way, to previous protests, which we have seen turn violent in the U.S. in the past 5 years, 6 years-ish. So I can talk more about that in English as well here. And tomorrow I will also probably speak in Spanish as well a little bit, because I told people in the Spanish channel, we might dual stream, actually. I don't know how that would do, but if I speak mostly Spanish and you speak mostly English, maybe we can balance it.
I was actually thinking about this today because I'm setting up a back studio, a third little set, where I can live stream in English on the English channel, and then you could do the Spanish channel, not tomorrow, but in the future, if there is a big event like this, because we do have 2 audiences, and it's hard to do 2 audiences, but luckily there is 2 of us.
Yes.
I would need your help to set up the stream because you're the technical wizard.
Yeah, he does all the pre-production, lighting, cameras, sets. What else do you do? Anything that's audio, anything that you can see or hear is thanks to Guy.
Oh, and Rafa said,
I know. I'll read it in a second. And I edit. When we used to have very edited videos, that used to be mostly me. And post-production, essentially, and also setting up computer stuff, because he's not so good with computers. And Rafa says, wait, you'll stream tomorrow on Saturday?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just because I really do think it's going to be big tomorrow. Something, especially
He
with
keeps saying that. So.
especially with the Iran thing happening. A false flag would be perfect to kind of consolidate the nation to want to go to war with Iran, because the justifications they're giving right now just don't justify this first strike Israel has kind of done, and now the U.S. seems to be going right in there gunning for a war. So they need something to kind of consolidate the nation. And then just even before this Iran thing happened, I thought there was going to be major violence on Saturday night, early Sunday morning. So
maybe the chat can answer my question that I'm trying to think in my head, because I do know there's some people from the Spanish channel that are interested in like live streaming tomorrow in Spanish. And then there's people in the English channel interested in English live streaming. So what would be less annoying, like doing half an hour Spanish, then half an hour in English, or?
We're going to stay one channel the whole time, the English channel, because it needs the subscribers to monetize.
I know, but what I'm asking is during the stream, because I did say I would speak in Spanish or like talk about things in Spanish a little bit at least, what would be less annoying is my question.
Well, I don't think it's too annoying at all, as long as we just keep saying that we're going to speak in English and Spanish, because I think that will appeal to an American audience as well.
Maybe.
It allows them to know that, number one, you're Mexican. Number two, we're broadcasting from Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different perspective on these LA riots. I don't see anybody live streaming from Mexico speaking English. Yeah. So it is an interesting perspective overall. And a lot of our audience is actually
from the Spanish channel.
From Mexico. Yeah. From Mexico.
And El Salvador and other countries.
Yeah, and other countries.
I was going to say, I haven't seen many people speak that much. I mean, I talked about Luisito Comunica today, who's an influencer who I think just made things worse by what he said, honestly.
And they have hit somebody with tear gas here. I see they've been trying to put water in our eyes for a while. So I haven't actually seen much tear gas tonight. So I can't actually see what city it's from because it doesn't really say. But yeah. Okay, continue what you were going to say.
Rafa says, I suggest sticking to the language of the channel.
Yeah.
So English? Maybe. Okay. Well, I guess if people, because I have said it before for Jessica Ramirez, for example, or for anybody that mostly speaks Spanish but watches us in English with subtitles or like with auto captions, you can send in messages in Spanish and then I'll read them in English.
We can also write messages on our Spanish channel saying we're live streaming the protest. And
I was going to do that anyways.
Because a lot of the times when I'm watching, I'm actually turning down the volume because I don't want to hear what they say, and I just want to watch the feeds.
Okay.
So.
And David Bell says, I agree. Okay, I will speak in English only then.
Quit trying to virtue signal with your Spanish.
I'm not virtue signaling. I'm just saying a lot of people before, when we used to stream on the Spanish channel in English, used to get very upset that saying, oh, this is a Spanish channel. Why are you speaking in English? But that's
keep it in English then.
The perils of having a
well, I'm glad they told you because
channel.
I can't tell you anything. You're a true feminist.
He means anti-feminist and doing my best to fight against the ideology all the way from the beginning to now. But sure. Well, I am his wife, though.
We have 5 minutes left before we go off air for the night. I would like to thank everybody that has tuned in.
Yes.
If you haven't subscribed, please do so. But we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers so we can monetize this channel as well. Mm-hmm. We do YouTube like full time right now, and
almost.
It's hard to manage 2 channels. I want to make more content for this channel, but we really can't do that until it's monetized, because the majority of our energy has to go into the Spanish channel.
Yes. My energy. Because finally,
and they have had a lot of time to prep this thing up because this protest was coming. They almost hit with those first few days in the LA riots a little bit too early, because they have given Trump, the military, all these police forces, and all these other states a lot of time to plan. And we have seen, since the military has been called in, these riots have really been put under control, and they've turned back to protest rather than riots for the most part. Someone
got arrested on bottom left-hand corner, but not really clear.
Well, and he also a lot of people forgot this, but he signed an executive order on the second day of the protest outlawing masks at protests, which is a good thing.
I've still seen a lot, though.
There still is a lot, but they can arrest people on site for wearing masks now. Mm-hmm. So I think they need to be pretty heavy-handed with the arrest on people with masks and things like that early on, especially in the daytime, to kind of weed those people out of the night. They need to make a lot
But then more will come in.
They need to make a lot of arrests in the day in order to weed people out for the night.
Justified arrests.
Yeah,
let's just
obviously
say.
justified arrests.
That lady is still going, trying to get figs from the spray.
And they must be running. This channel is trying to find primarily live feeds, but some of them, once in a while, he accidentally puts a replay up from earlier in the day. It looks like the one in the middle from Los Angeles is probably earlier in the day because it looks like it's still daylight, and
where the sun is. Yeah.
I think the sun should be down in Los Angeles by now for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's 10. It's turning 10 there now. So.
Yeah.
But as of now, mostly. Now you could say mostly peaceful protests, at least what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Does he have a Portland/Seattle feed or no? Do you know?
Yeah, he switches them up throughout. And that main feed in the middle box on the very top, that has a lot of cameras. So he's monitoring all of them, and then he'll bring them up if there's anything major going on. But there hasn't been anything major all night, which is surprising because I've been watching these protests, not nonstop, but 4 or 5 hours a day for the last 5 days.
Oh no, that person's in Vegas, and we might be able to see something we don't want to.
What do you mean?
He's in the Fremont Experience, and there's sometimes nudity. I'll just put it that
there
way
is?
at the Fremont Experience. Yeah, I was just there this past summer, and I was surprised at how much, exhibitionism there was. I'll just say it that way, especially right now because it's a Friday.
Oh yeah.
So hopefully YouTube doesn't get mad. Now you really are silent.
Okay. Well, we're done for the night. I appreciate everybody tuning in. If you do want to continue watching the live feed, because he is going until the early morning hours, and he will continue to go all day tomorrow if things do break out. But I think he's going to stop around 1 or 2 is my guess. And again, the audio on this is really good because it's all police scanners from these different cities. So he very rarely talks over the feed. It's one of the better feeds. What's the name of the channel again?
Starship Adventures, and I'll link it to the description of this video. Should I go to the main camera?
Yeah, go to the main camera.
So thank you so much. As always, Rafa, Walker, even, what was the name of that person that was annoying?
Well, if you're...
Facts are good. Also, David Bell, everybody, thank you for commenting. Thank you for being here. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on this channel as well.
And we will be back tomorrow, probably a little later, probably around 10 or 11. We're going to start the stream on this channel. So if you are interested, it's going to be fairly similar, where we're going to cover different news, kind of the day, updates on Iran, updates obviously of the protests while we play the protests. If these protests do get out of hand, we'll stop covering the news and we'll exclusively cover the protests. If they get too violent, then we are going to go to RUMBLE, that's the green monster, so we can show things uncensored.
And same channel name on RUMBLE. And Rafa, have a good night too. Please stay safe, everybody out there. And we'll see you tomorrow for once on a weekend.
Adios.
So thank you so much. Have a good night.